Hey, good morning, guys. Hope your day's off to a good start. It's nice to see your smiling face. You're looking amazing as always. Um, Come on in. You actually caught me at a good time. I was just getting ready to do the dishes. It's a good reason to not do them. Um, so today, I wanted to touch on a few different things, but the first one is I think I'm going to change the name of my channel. The way my channel's been evolving and changing, I've been trying to think of different names. Me and Chris have been bouncing ideas off each other, and we've come to the conclusion that we're thinking about possibly naming the channel Mr. Smith's Kitchen, because the majority of the stuff that I do, um, other than the fish, some woodworking, and until I get more room, I don't know how much of that I'm actually going to film, because that was not happy that last video with Bucket Box. But fish, other than fish and some woodworking, we do a lot of gardening talk and talks from my kitchen and cooking and baking. The kitchen seems to revolve my channel. My channel revolves around it. Um, so I don't know when exactly it's going to happen, but it's probably going to change to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. So if that pops up on your subscription list, it's me. And hopefully you'll stay subscribed. That and it better reflects, which is kind of a side note, but that's what my Etsy page is called too. It's Mr. Smith's Kitchen Design. And if you get a chance, check it out. Some pretty good deals on there. But anyhow, that was something we were talking about over this past weekend. And this morning, I've had some of those random thoughts and ideas this morning. One of my thoughts was I learned something about a gentleman named Louis Latimer, who was an interesting man in himself. He was a man of color back in the time of Edison and Bell. That he had taught himself, he was self-taught until he learned how to do drafting. If you don't know what drafting is using knowledge and skills to gather, plan, or build something that's mechanical, architectural, or structural. And he took that knowledge that he gained and went to work for some of the greatest inventors of all America. He worked with Alexander Graham Bell to help create what was essentially, the phone. He helped him create and design it going forward. And then he worked with Thomas Edison on the light bulb and took the ideas that Edison had and his skills to make things and combined them to make a more efficient light bulb that in the long run made them affordable, and he changed the way we lit our homes, and all from being able to work with Edison and teaching himself something. So my thought behind that is, everybody has bad situations, everybody has hard times, but good work, hard work, determination, dedicating yourself to learning something, no matter how you do it, whether it's in school or self-taught or otherwise in a work atmosphere, you can always better yourself. Don't let anybody tell you different. Another thing I was thinking about this morning was the new infrastructure plan. And I know there are people out there saying why it costs a lot of money, and it does. It costs $2 trillion. That's a lot of money. That's more than everybody on my street will make in a lifetime combined. That's probably more than everybody on a 3 square block area combined in a lifetime. $2 trillion is a ton of money. So there are some people that are against spending that, and then there are, of course, people who don't think it's enough. Well, here's the thing. It's, if you take a car, we're going to say a car, or even a house, it doesn't, you take any entity that you use on a daily basis. If you use your car on a daily basis, getting back and forth to work, taking the kids to where they need to go, going to the grocery store, whatever. You use your car on a daily basis. You live in your house. Both those take maintenance and upkeep, much like our infrastructure. Now I'm talking everything from public transportation to airports to roads to bridges to internet, everything. Everything that's in this package. And you can tell me there are things in the package that don't relate to infrastructure. You can take anything and relate it to anything else. Okay, let's just get that straight right now. If I said that I'm going to send, part of that $2 trillion to community college, you can say, well, what's that got to do with infrastructure? Well, that community college probably trains the people who are going to build the roads, build the bridges, create the internet, help update and modernize. So you'd say, well, there could be money better spent. And sure, we could have, but see, there's two ways of paying for things. Okay, there's a pay as you go. Like your car. So you've got maintenance and upkeep, right? Costs you money. Got to get the oil changed. Got to get the spark plugs and wires done. Brakes, tires, all that. Maintenance and upkeep. What happens if you don't do maintenance and upkeep? One of two things. You either lose your car altogether because it falls apart and you got to get all new. Well, that's expensive. That's really expensive. Or you spend what could have been a little bit of money at a time doing maintenance and upkeep on one large bulk buy when you're replacing your entire front suspension, your motor, your transmission, and your rear axle. So, do you spend it a little bit at a time, keep it maintained, or do you wait until it just completely falls apart and you build all new, or you just take it, get rid of it, and start new? We are, as far as our infrastructure goes, at a point where we haven't done our maintenance in a long time. Why? Budget cutbacks, priorities, whatever. There's probably a million reasons for it. Wow. I just heard a really loud bang. Very cool. So, there's probably plenty of reasons for it. Whatever. When it comes down to brass taxes, we didn't spend the money to keep our roads up, our bridges maintained, rail, public transportation in general. None of that was really kept up. We didn't hold ourselves to a higher standard in infrastructure. We're kind of like the teenager with the messy room. We would polish it every once in a while, but reality is it was all stuffed under the bed or in the closet. So, now we're to that point where we got to spend $2 trillion to get us up to speed. Well, if you're going to get us up to speed, you might as well make it newer. Maybe not brand new, but incorporated. They do the same thing with planes and ships and trains. Every once in a while, technology allows you to jump that old model forward to make it last longer. So that's kind of what we're doing now. So $2 trillion, if we'd have just spent it throughout the time, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now. But that's the way it works, and it's cheaper than ripping everything out and starting all over again. So we need the infrastructure plan, hands down. Like I said, it doesn't matter what section it is. I have not read the whole thing, so I don't know. But even if you don't agree with it, think of a way you can put it into infrastructure, because that's the way we're going to sell it. We need it. Both sides of the building do it the same way. When Republicans are in power, they try to push things through, and they will tell you every which way to Sunday about how it would work, even though it really, in my mind or your mind, may not be the way it goes. And Democrats do the same thing. We're doing it now. But either way it goes, it's got to get together. That's my opinion. That's my thought. Another thing I was thinking about today was, I'm kind of ranting and raving and rumbling a little, because I want people to understand at least that, especially that infrastructure piece. And in this one here that I'm about to talk about is about underlying causes. I hear that term used in the news all the time, and about everything and anything. The two biggest things lately have been COVID. The amount of people who have died due to underlying underlying conditions brought on by COVID. Okay, well, a lot of the people that died had diabetes, and that is a condition, right? And I'm sure a majority of those people were taking medicine and doing what they needed to do to make sure they stayed alive. Okay? So it was a controlled underlying condition. And then when they say, oh, well, they died of COVID, and you say, well, did they have any underlying conditions? It doesn't matter, because the definition of an underlying condition is the main root of the cause. What was the main root of the problem? It's kind of like in a car. If your battery's dead, is the battery bad or is the trunk light on? And you don't know it, it's just draining your battery. So is that truly, that the underlying cause in that is the light. The effect is the battery. So if you say somebody's died from COVID, but they had underlying conditions, the underlying condition was COVID, because it was the root cause of what caused the death. The rest of them were being maintained. They weren't an issue. Yes, they were there, and they may have contributed in some way to the ultimate cause of death, but the main underlying cause of death would have been COVID. So that's why I'm struggling with why they keep saying underlying condition, when those were hidden conditions maybe, but not the underlying condition. Like I said, the meaning of underlining is the root cause, the main reason why it happened. Well, the main reason why it happens is they caught COVID. Not because they had diabetes, not because they had asthma, not because they had high blood pressure. Those were more than likely all things that were maintained. Now I'm sure there are instances, there's a variant for every instance. And I get that, with 320 plus million people in the world, and getting smaller every day because we're either killing each other off or dying of COVID. That is the underlying cause. There is no and, if, or but between it. It's what was it that caused this failure? Well, what caused the failure in this case would be COVID, not diabetes, not any of the other symptoms or diagnosis. Another thing that made me think of that was the George Floyd case. Because they were pushing hard with the underlying conditions that he had in his drug addiction, which made his heart weak and things like that. Well, those were all there, but what caused all that, what caused his death? It wasn't all that. He was living just fine. What caused his death was he couldn't breathe anymore. So the underlying condition to his death would have been, he couldn't breathe. Not, because he had, a weaker heart or a drug addiction, previous drug addiction, past drug addiction. None of that is relevant. And that's really kind of burned me in that particular case. Because you've got it backwards. In both cases, COVID and the Floyd case, they've got the underlying or root cause backwards. The root cause of death in both scenarios is not they had a pre-existing condition. So that's something we really need to think about and take kind of with a grain of salt when it comes to the news. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I don't think I am. That was like the second big thing that I wanted to talk about. Not only because I think we rely. I think we rely way too much on the media to begin with, but with them kind of giving us direction, and I don't want to say leadership, but knowledge. Whether we, how we interpret that knowledge is completely up to us. But I think they show a responsibility to maybe think about how they're wording things before they word it. And this coming from a guy who watches the news 24/7, and I watch everything. I want to know all sides. Ooh, excuse me. They're powerful enough that Malcolm X said this. I mean, if you think about this, it's true. And this is media of any type, whether it's news, a cartoon network, something like that. It's just all media comes in different forms. What I'm doing right now by us sitting here talking, this is media. But Malcolm X said that media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power because they control the minds of the masses. So the bigger you are in a media form, whether it be a huge superstar here on YouTube or TikTok or on the news or on a TV show that airs on any channel, that's the masses, and what you say can doesn't necessarily mean it will, but it can influence other people to interpretation or do things that they would normally do. So I hopefully, we start recognizing when things aren't quite jiving. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I think. I don't think the media does a bad job 90% of the time, but it's like that 10% of the time when it's not accurate seems to be the things that grow hugely in proportion, and changing minds is not really easy to do. It's just not. That being said, I mean, that's really the only two things I had. I wanted to talk about the infrastructure plan a little bit. I personally am for the infrastructure plan. Doesn't matter what comes forward, and from either party or both parties, there's always going to be something somebody doesn't like somewhere in the plan. But you have to do the best to help the masses. Remember, even though a single person can change the world, the masses, are important too. They hold what's good for everybody. But what's good for the goose is always good for the gander, and I get that. But you got to take it where it lies. All right, so this week, don't forget, tomorrow we're doing taco meatloaf. It's going to be really interesting. It's a meatloaf that's kind of made like a Swiss roll or a cinnamon bun, and looks to be filled with just some ooey gooey love. And then Thursday, I'm not sure what we're getting into Thursday yet, other than baking a blueberry pie. And I may do like a quick 2-3 minute video of what we got going on with the plants so far, because they've grown quick. Those grow lights have just helped them out tenfold. And the ones up front, I left the hot peppers up here to help better regulate the hotter temperature, because we keep our house warm. We're old people like that. And the basement stays a little cooler. So the sweet peppers, the bell peppers, and the tomatoes are doing just fine down there with the cucumbers. And all the hot peppers are up here where it's hot and there's more natural sunlight, things like that. And they're doing very well also. And it won't be too much longer. We'll be hardening them up outside during the day. So we can get ready to plant them here in about 3.5 weeks. All right, so that being said, blueberry pie. And then I know next week, I'm not sure what we'll talk about on Tuesday. I should say the following week, next week. But we're going to, I may make a side dish. I may do an extra video, because I want to kind of do some side dishes that are like, Mexican rice. I've got a recipe for Mexican rice that's really good. But it's may not take long to shoot the video, but it is kind of a time-consuming process as far as cooking of the rice and making everything from scratch goes. But well worth it. Great Mexican rice. But we'll figure something out. I don't know. Next week's a long way away. We still got this week. So tomorrow we're going to be doing taco meatloaf, and then Thursday blueberry pie. All right. I love you guys. You tell somebody else you love them. I hope you found something, get something out of this. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the subscription notification thingy, bell, and but I hope you at least learned something, about the importance of maintaining things and upkeep, and to not always take what the media says. Do your homework when you watch the news. All right, that's all I'm going to ask. And I'm just basing that on the start with, them using underlining causes and conditions. And like I said, those are my thoughts and opinions. So, I love you. Tell somebody else you love them. Make their day a whole lot better. I guarantee it. And I'll see you tomorrow. All right? For some good taco meatloaf. All right. Bye.